From the studios in beautiful Oceanport, New Jersey, welcome to the biggest and greatest podcast ever. I'm your host, Ray K.
Hey, everybody. We got a pretty exciting show today. This is like a cool show. It's my first NFL guest. This guy was, he was on that first championship team of I call it Super Bowl championship, 1986, 8 years with the Giants. So he played 100 games on the button. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, if that's one of those coincidences, but he was a key ingredient to that whole run, up to that Super Bowl victory. I think it was probably the best linebacker core ever in my mind. I mean, I'm a big fan of the 60s, 70s, the Steelers with Jack Lambert, but these guys I think were the tops, and I think a lot of people agree with that. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff, including the NFL career stuff going on now. My guest is Byron Hunt. Byron, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Ray, thanks for bringing me into your world.
Hey, my pleasure. We met through I guess a mutual friend, Zach Martin. I'll give him a little shout out from WFAN. And he's Byron's one of those guys. We just met about 30 minutes ago, but I felt like I've known him for like 30 years. One of those things. But Byron, let's get into this. When you first started football, this is our first section. I just want to go through your quick football career. Were you good in Pop Warner? Did you know you were going to be a possible NFL standout early on?
Ray, let me tell you, we didn't have Pop Warner.
Okay. Okay. I started to get presumptuous on that,
Yeah, no, I didn't play football until I think probably the 7th grade. And so I growing up in White Oak, Texas, all we had was Little League Baseball. So I played Little League Baseball and probably could have been a very good baseball player, but I gave it up after my sophomore year in high school, and focused on football, track, and basketball.
Now, was that because of your size? I mean, I imagine you were big in high school, correct?
Well, no, I was a starting third baseman on our high school baseball team at about 6'2" and a half.
Okay.
So,
okay. Not huge, but pretty good size,
Yeah, I was about 175 pounds, 6'2" and a half, so I was skinny.
Okay. So you were...
But I could play some baseball naturally, always. I was always a good baseball player before I was anything.
Okay. Do you find that... I'm just segueing. Do you find, Byron, that most athletes, it seems like they're good in everything. Like if you're a pro athlete, you were probably good in baseball, you're probably good in basketball. Like it seems like they're good at everything. Was that like you or, baseball, football? Were you a natural athlete?
No, like I said, baseball was something that came pretty easy for me. I won't say easy. I mean, it was just a natural thing. I could always catch and throw the baseball.
Okay.
But, football, basketball, running track, things like that, golf, which I played. I didn't do that until I probably my sophomore year is when I started to see the change as far as the other sports goes, but growing up, Little League Baseball is my thing.
Okay. Now you're getting into high school. I know the advantage for Texas, I know some friends down there, is you got all year round good weather. So you get to play baseball like 10 months a year, where in New Jersey, where I am, you got like 2 months of Little League and that's it, So I know there's a lot of pro athletes, baseball players come from Texas, but football is, you think of Texas, you think of football. So now you're a sophomore. Now, give us that run, through your JV, were you varsity all the years? I mean, were you an instant success? Like, how did that go in high school?
No, not at all. I didn't play football on the varsity until we made the playoffs. So we were here. I tell you what happened is my sophomore year, I was a defensive end. That's all I played.
Okay.
And there was a 3-way tie for our district championship, and we flipped the coin, and we lost my sophomore year. We tied, we flipped the coin, and we lost my junior year. And then my senior year, we went 5-5. So I never got a chance to experience the playoffs in high school. 2 coin flips, and we were both out on both of those. But I did get a chance to participate in, football, basketball, baseball, track, my high school years, giving up baseball after my sophomore year. So football was kind of a late coming for me.
Okay. So after high school, you go to college. So obviously people are looking at you, I don't know if you got a scholarship or if you were all state eventually, or, someone obviously saw something in you to pick you up in college. Cause I believe you had quite a stellar college career. So tell me that, did you start blooming in college? When this potential NFL guy starts coming into play here, like how does college go now? Like it sounds like high school is like, okay, but there's no inkling of this guy's going to be a great player in the NFL yet.
No, what happened is I went to SMU on a football basketball scholarship. So I went there on a dual scholarship. I was a good basketball player and a good football player in high school. Played tight end and then outside linebacker, defensive end, and then basketball. I played wherever they put me, that's where I played.
And how tall were you? And how tall were you? I guess that's your full height now in college. How tall are you, or were you back then?
Oh, I was when I finished high school, I was 6'6".
Okay, so back in those days, that was you could probably play center, I imagine.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I played center / forward because we had another guy about my height that we kind of rotated high. They call it high post, low post, and.
Okay. So now you're playing basketball and football then, is that right? In college?
Well, I go to SMU on a basketball football scholarship.
Okay.
But after my first year of football, I started I started the third game of the season. I started for SMU at 6'6", 205 pounds. Outside linebacker against the number one ranked team in the country, Ohio State.
Whoa! Okay.
So that was my first start.
Tell me about that. Was anything memorable, like the first play that happened, or any great things that you remember from that, or was it difficult? Like, wow, these guys are number one, or did you say, wow, I could do this? I mean, I'm right in here with these guys.
Yeah. There's two things I remember about that game. Is that we had an inside linebacker named Anthony Dickerson, who ended up playing in the NFL for, I don't know, 5 years with the Cowboys, Miami and Buffalo, another 2 years. But he was the best player on our team. He had 33 tackles in that game.
Oh,
and
that sounds crazy. 33 tackles.
Oh yeah, he was awesome. He was an awesome player. And I played alongside him. And the other thing I remember is our defensive end. I played outside linebacker. Our defensive end, left defensive end. His nickname was Killer. Killer. That was what we nicknamed him because he had the most vicious forearm you ever want to see on anybody.
Now, back then, the forearm was okay? You could do a forearm back then? I don't know if you could do it now, but was that allowed back then? Obviously, it was.
Hey, that's everybody used what they call the forearm shiver.
Okay. Is that like a clothesline? A clothesline thing? I'm just trying to understand what a forearm is.
No. Okay. A forearm shiver is, it would be like a uppercut in reverse. So you would take your forearm, your fist, ball it up, and deliver it like a chicken wing straight up underneath somebody's shoulder pads, underneath their chin.
Okay.
And that was a technique that was taught back when I was in high school. When it was the forearm shiver, and the better your forearm shiver, the better chance you had to keep people off of you. And this guy James Wright, who was playing right next to me, he knocked out 2 offensive tackles for Ohio State with that forearm shiver, and both of those guys end up being first-round picks in the NFL down the road. Whoa, so those are 2 things I remember about Ohio State. Yes, we lost to Ohio State, but Anthony Dickerson and a guy named James Wright were our 2 best players, and they did some damage that day.
Really, really. Where did you guys finish up that year? I mean, were you like top 10 in the country or top 20?
No, my first year at SMU, we won 3 games.
Okay.
We didn't break the top 20 until my senior year.
Okay,
at SMU.
but you did break it. Okay, in your senior year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we got as high as 16th in the country.
Were you in a bowl that senior year, Byron? Was there a bowl, a sugar bowl, or some kind of bowl? 16, you got to be in something. Mm-hmm.
We played in the most memorable college game ever.
Oh, tell me.
The Holiday Bowl against BYU. Vince McMahon came back to beat us in the last second with a Hail Mary play to Clay Brown, Clay Brown was drafted, I think, second round by the Cleveland Browns, and Jim McMahon was drafted by the Chicago Bears.
Right, Mr. Hollywood or whatever that nickname he had with the sunglasses. I mean, he was
right.
Yeah.
So
okay, I have to YouTube that. That's okay. Okay.
You watch that game. We were up 20 points with about 4 minutes to go.
Whoa. Okay.
And our coaching staff, they thought we had the game won. And let me tell you, they get with 1 second left. It's a Hail Mary, and Clay Brown came down with the ball in the end zone. And I'm going to give you 3 guys. Russell Carter, first round pick for New York Jets. Wes Hopkins, first round pick, Philadelphia Eagles. John Simmons, who was an All-American, and he was a third round pick, Cincinnati Bengals. All 3 of those guys were down there, and not one of them came down with it. Clay Brown, some kind of way, came down with that ball. And you know what? And you've seen these Hail Mary plays, and you start looking at them, and you wonder how these guys are able to come down with the ball. And I think it's bottom line is that the receivers feel like that they got the best chance to get the ball. Plus, they're looking back, and you're kind of standing in the end zone, all in a circle, jumping up, while the receiver, is running. They're just kind of waiting there to jump them in the air. I think the receiver has a little bit of advantage
because they're doing their natural little pattern or whatever, and they're naturally running. They know kind of ahead of time where it's going. So that whole thing in their mind, you think they got that advantage because they know the play, and the other guys got to sort of adjust. Okay.
It's got to be something to it because it still happens.
They seem to catch it a lot. Yeah. As opposed to the defensive guy intercepting, it's either gets batted down or they catch it. There's no defensive guided interceptions. It seems it's one or the other. What was that like? What was it feeling like? I mean, was it like devastation? Or did you did you get over it in a few days, or was that like a thing that for like a year you were depressed? To experience the loss side of that.
Yeah,
it must have felt pretty bad, I would think. I play intramural basketball and I feel bad.
We lost the game. We lost the game, but I think as players, we all realize how far we had come. Especially that was my senior year. How far we'd come from a 3-win team to playing in the Holiday Bowl. And look, none of us would have ever thought that would have been the highest score in a Holiday Bowl, or one of the greatest Holiday Bowls ever played. And this is back in 1981 when we wasn't 81 yet. It was 1980. So it was December, I think late December, 1980. And as far as that game, I think we were upset because we had Eric James, Craig James. I'm not Eric. We had Eric Dickerson and Craig James. You got me mixing them up now. But
Eric Dickerson. Okay, that's the running back.
Yeah, I had Eric and Craig James.
He's a legend. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's hitting me now. Okay. Right.
Yeah. And we they were coming back, for their junior and senior year. So SMU went on to be the number one team in the country and beat Dan Marino when he was with Pittsburgh in the Cotton Bowl a couple years later. We were on the upswing.
Right.
I don't think there was too much disappointment. We had a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And our program was headed in the right direction, at least for a while.
Right. Wow, what a perfect way to look at it, too, at that young age, setting up for the little future, for what NFL did. Yeah. All right, so now you're NFL bound. Who was your team growing up? I'm going to guess the Dallas Cowboys, being from Texas. I mean, I'll take a wild shot at that.
I was a Patriot fan ever since I can remember. My older brother played for the Patriots, so I grew up.
Oh, there you go. Okay. I didn't take that into consideration. That's right. Okay. So back then you were a Patriot fan when they weren't, I guess, were they okay back then? I don't remember.
Well, the Patriots lost every year in the playoffs against the Steelers or the Raiders.
Okay.
They could never get by either one of those teams. The Patriots Patriots might have had the best players besides Pittsburgh. I thought Pittsburgh had the best players. On one team. You think about Pittsburgh Steelers and how they were so successful. Think about it. Out of 22 starters, they probably had 18 or so of those players or multiple Pro Bowl players year after year after year. So they had some terrific players. But I grew up with as a Patriot fan, and they could not get past the Raiders or the Steelers.
Were you able to meet any of the players since your brother was a player? Did you meet the players back then or anything like that, or you just sort of okay.
I sat on the side. I didn't sit on the sideline. My brother got me sideline passes my sophomore year.
And how much older is your brother than you?
8 years.
Oh, okay. So you're a kid. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So I'm a sophomore year in college, and my brother gave me a sideline pass, and the Patriots had just traded for a guy that was a nose tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the great Ernie Holmes.
Ernie Holmes, number 63, right?
Right.
Yep.
So he got traded to the Patriots, and my brother gave me a sideline pass, and he said, "You just stay right next to this guy." And he pointed at Ernie Holmes. So I hung out with Ernie Holmes on the sidelines of the Patriots-Cowboy game.
Huh. What was that like? I mean, did he talk to you, or was it intense watching the game, or any insights?
He didn't talk much.
Okay.
But he he played mostly on first downs, second downs. They pulled him out because he had just been traded recently. So he was playing first down, second down, then was coming out on third down and long and things like that. So he was kind of running back and forth, every series. Right. But that guy had the biggest freaking arms of anybody I've ever seen in my life.
Biceps, arms.
And he was built. That guy was built like a freaking tank.
And he wasn't that tall, right? For that line.
No.
Yeah, like 6'2", like that.
I don't even know if he was 6 foot tall. He said he was 6'1".
Okay.
But I don't know if he was that tall or not.
Wow.
Didn't seem like he was.
Okay. That's wild. I remember that line of the Steelers. That was like the defensive line, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Mean Joe Green, L.C. Greenwood, Holmes.
That was the first preseason. That's the first preseason game that I played as a rookie. We played the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh.
What was that like? Like you're watching these guys on TV. Now you're in the game against them. I mean, do you think?
Well, you don't realize. You're
just playing like anything. You're not thinking that kind of stuff.
Well, I put it this way: is that they had something called Game Day magazine. They still have them. And when you go into the locker room, they, the Game Day book, which is going to be, what the fans get in the stands.
Oh, that thing. Okay, I know it. Yeah, right.
So that's sitting right on the stool in front of your locker. So I'm reading the game day magazine, going through it, just kind of this is my first preseason game, so I'm interested in what's going on. So they have an article in there, and it's about the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line and how much they bench press and how much they squat and how much they deadlift.
Okay.
Every one of them, it was over 500 bench press pounds bench press, over 1,000 pounds, deadlifting, 1,100 pounds, 1,200 pounds, and squatting, 950 to 1,000 pounds. Every one of them.
Right.
And you don't realize, you're like, okay, that's a lot of weight, but you've never seen the people in person.
Right.
So when we go out on the field and we see these guys, they're warming up and everything else. You got to remember, the Steelers have already won 4 Super Bowls, okay? So this is 1981.
So they're still in that little prime that they had, at the end of it, but they're still the Steelers. Right, okay.
They were at the end of that run.
Right.
And let me tell you, they had some arms and some legs on every one of those guys. Larry Cole, Mike Webster, Corson, Webster, Cole, Corson,
offense and defense,
Brown,
everybody, right?
I mean, every one of those guys, even the guys that came in, they're the guys that came in on short yardage. Those guys were freaking huge, and they could run.
Okay.
One thing, those guys could run, because when they ran a toss sweep, sometimes they would pull their freaking center. Imagine that.
Ah, okay.
And they got up in front of Franco Harris. So those guys probably were the most impressive group of offensive linemen I've ever seen. And they wore their sleeves very, very
I remember that. I remember
very
that.
Tight.
Yeah.
Tucked underneath.
Right.
And sprayed. So their jerseys were like sprayed onto their shoulder pads, basically.
Okay, so they're showing it off a little bit.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And there was nothing, and you couldn't grab anything. You couldn't grab their jerseys or whatever. They had, I read about this, and I didn't realize what they actually did until afterwards. Is that they would put their jerseys over their shoulder pads, where the tightest jerseys they can get over their shoulder pads, and they would spray them with silicone, and then they would slide them over their heads, and from there.
Great insight on that. I never knew it. I was, we always saw big Mike Webster with those arms, but
right.
Now, now you're playing against these guys. I mean, do you notice it on the field when they're trying to block you? Do you say, "Wow, these guys are tough," or is it like, are you hanging in there pretty good and tackling Franco Harris and like, okay, this is I'm doing it. I mean, was there anything noticeable about that strength of theirs now that you're going against them?
All I can tell you, what I remember the most is that if one of those guys hits you, you felt it. I mean, they were those guys. I mean, they were full speed, 100%. This is a preseason game. I mean, I'm just thinking, like Lawrence Taylor and I are out there together in preseason as rookie outside linebackers, and back then, the rookies, they get stuck in all the preseason games. They know the veterans, they didn't want to play in any preseason games.
Sure. Right.
So, rookies played almost every preseason game was for the rookies.
Okay. So you're going through all that heat, right? The heat of the summer,
The heat of the summer, and, the Steelers, they were just physically the most intimidating team I've ever seen.
Okay, so they really were. I mean, as a fan, you think that, but it's interesting from someone that was on the other side, looking him in the eye, that hey, these guys are the real deal. I mean, everything you read about is true. I mean, they're. I don't know how they did that year, but like you said, they were going a little down. How was Bradshaw? Was he tough that game? Did he play at all?
Bradshaw was injured that game. He didn't.
Oh, okay.
Like I said,
okay.
Yeah. The veterans didn't play that much.
Okay,
but,
I got it.
Their offensive line, they go in, they have the offensive line. I mean, they were playing. There was probably maybe 1 or 2 series, that they're out there. But those guys, they were very impressive. The steel, they call
Steel
it the
curtain.
steel curtain. Whether they're talking about their offense or the defense, I mean, they were tremendous. That was the most impressive team that I can ever remember. I mean, throughout my entire years in NFL, I still say the Steelers had the best offensive line, defensive line combination, and probably the best players. And the reason they won those 4 Super Bowls is because they had the best players. They were definitely good.
So of all the teams you played against, in your whole career, that Steeler team was the top defense, the top offensive lineman that you went against, basically.
I think
okay.
So. I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How much did you bench press, Byron? I mean, did you hit 500 or was it like 462? You know what?
No, I think the most I ever bench pressed was 405. I think.
Oh, okay. One time.
One time was enough.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds heavy. I know 300 always seemed to be the magic number in high school if some kid ever did 300, you know. So 400's out of my world, you know.
Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, I wasn't that great of a bench presser. Some people say because your arms are longer. Some people, you know.
Yeah.
Some
right.
people say other reasons, but I probably my best exercise was the clean and jerk. Like I could clean and jerk like the. I think I did. Like clean. I think 490. I think.
Okay.
So that was the most on the team. So when I was with the Giants,
okay. What did LT bench press? Was he in the 400s?
LT. I know he bench pressed. More than me.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to guess. He was in the 400 range too.
Did you have to lift weights to make it in the NFL back then, Byron, or could you actually, outside saying being a quarterback, can you play without lifting weights, or is that like totally necessary? Do you have to lift weights to play in that league?
There was an 8-time Pro Bowler, outside linebacker, who couldn't bench 205. But he could throw offensive linemen and tight ends around like they were rag dolls.
Okay.
So the answer to your question is you didn't have to be a weightlifter to play football.
Okay. So that guy had the football strength or whatever you want to call it. He had some other kind of thing. He just wasn't.
Brad Van Pelt.
Brad Van Pelt. Okay. Wow. Okay.
All-American football, basketball, football, baseball player in college, and the first overall pick for the Giants.
Wow. Okay, that's a great thing to know. You know that you can make it without being a weightlifter because you just think you have to do it. So that's I never knew that. Never knew it. Playoffs. You guys make the playoffs. That now the Giants in the 70s, as everyone knows, was almost like it was like a laughing stock. It seemed, you know, in the NFL. The Cowboys were always beating them, and they had a couple good years. But now you guys make the playoffs, right? In '81.
That's correct.
Tell me what that was like. That must have been crazy because now the Giants are on the upswing after all those years since probably the early '60s. You know, since they were last good. You know, now you're in the playoffs.
We were basically playing in the playoffs the last, I'm going to say, 4 or 5 games of the season.
Okay.
Because we had to win. We had to basically win every game. I think we lost one out of our last 5 or 6 games. So we went 5-1, somewhere 6-1, somewhere in there. And so we had to win. We had to beat the Dallas Cowboys in the last game of the season at Giant Stadium to have a chance to make the playoffs. So we beat the Cowboys. We beat not the Steelers. We beat the Eagles in the second round, and then we lost in the third round to the San Francisco 49ers and Joe Montana.
Oh, okay.
And that was a year where Montana threw the ball to Dwight Clark, who recently passed away, and I was sad to hear that. And he was one of those guys that was suffering from CTE. But that pass.
All right, I'm going to talk about that a little while, but go ahead. That pass, I remember that famous pass, right? He leaped left like and right. Mm-hmm.
Joe Montana to Dwight Clark. That was against the Dallas Cowboys. And you can see Harvey Martin and Too Tall Jones with their arms up trying to knock the ball down. and Joe Montana just heaves it, and some kind of way Dwight Clark comes down with. That was a NFC Championship game, and that sent the 49ers to the Super Bowl for the first time. And that was, I think, Joe Montana's fourth year under Bill Walsh, I think. Third or fourth year.
Okay. How was it going against... Go ahead.
That was our last game of the season, was the 49er loss.
The 49er loss. Okay. So you lost, I guess, they won the championship that year, right? The 49ers, you said? The Super Bowl?
Yeah, they won the Super Bowl championship. Okay. But we had a good season, and I don't know, I didn't look it up, and I never looked it up, but I think we won like our last 5 out of 6 games or something like that, because we had to win every game to have a chance to make the playoffs.
Okay. What was it like going against a Montana? I mean, does it matter the quarterback? I mean, great quarterbacks seem to be super special, because without the great quarterback, the teams don't. It seems like you can't win without a great quarterback. I mean, as a defensive player, Byron, is that quarterback? How important is that guy? I mean, are they that great? Like when you go against a Montana, you got your work cut out for you? I mean, what's going through your head with those guys?
Yeah, all I remember is the first game, the first play of the game, I sacked Joe Montana. Our first, their first offensive play, I sacked Joe Montana.
Okay.
And I did not know until months later what they had in mind for the first play of the game. Now, you got to understand, this is Bill Walsh.
Wow. Now this is getting deep. This is getting deep. Go ahead.
Bill Walsh, offensive coordinator and play caller and head coach for the 49ers. Ray Perkins is our head coach in 81, but Bill Parcells is our defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. So Bill Walsh had the first play that they ran from the offensive line of scrimmage. I sacked Joe Montana. Mm-hmm. But let me tell you, mm-hmm. We just took a shot, because normally I would be in pass coverage. I didn't rush the passer all the time. Lawrence was basically coming after the quarterback most of the time. Lawrence Taylor, that is.
Right.
But for some reason, Parcells sent both of us on a blitz.
Okay.
And Lawrence got picked up, and I sacked Joe Montana. Mm-hmm. And nobody blocked me on the play.
Okay.
Because they didn't think I was going to be coming. Mm-hmm. Nobody blocked me on the play. But let me tell you, here is the play that Joe Montana. Lined up in front of me was a guy named Earl Cooper, who played at Rice University. He was, I think, the second-round pick for the 49ers in 1981 draft. So anyway, he was lined up. So he went from playing running back in college to playing kind of a tight end, kind of an H-back type guy. Mm-hmm. And Earl Cooper lined up in front of me off the line of scrimmage. And Joe Montana faked a reverse, kind of was going to be like a tight end kind of reverse. He faked the ball to Earl Cooper. I sacked Joe Montana, but the play was like a hook and lateral mm-hmm. off a tight end fake reverse. That was the play. Mm-hmm. Think about that. The first play of the game, you fake the ball to the tight end on what looks like to be a reverse. Mm-hmm. Joe Montana is a play action pass. Joe Montana drops back. Mm-hmm. He's got Freddie Solomon, who was their starting wide receiver at the time. He's running a hook down on the hash marks. Let's say about 12-yard hook. Coming up the sideline was Wendell Tyler, who the 49ers had just acquired from the Rams, I think, mm-hmm. or wherever Wendell Tyler. A hook. So Freddie Solomon is running a hook. He's going to catch the ball, and he's going to lateral it to Wendell Tyler. That's the first play of the game.
Okay.
For the 49ers.
Okay.
So that tells you where Bill Walsh was and what Bill Walsh was willing to do. He was one of those guys that wanted to knock you out, hit you hard the first play.
Right.
And that's what he tried to do. He thought he was going to catch us in another defense. And I guarantee you, if he would have got the ball off, it would have been probably a big game because Solomon would have caught the ball and nobody would have had one collar coming up the sidelines on that hook and lateral. It would have been a big play. But instead, we got the big play.
So Parcells makes the call to do that double blitz, I guess I'll call it, and that knocks out their big play.
That knocked out their big play because we caught them off guard. They were thinking they were going to catch us off guard.
Right. So it's like two all-time great coaches going at it. You know, it's just like I don't know, it's chess or whatever you want to call it, but it's just fascinating to hear that story. Like, who's going to win this? You know, and
right.
And you guys won that one. Wow. Okay, that is.
But they got the last laugh.
They got the last laugh, right? Because they won the game.
They won the game, yes.
Okay. I guess the last laugh is what matters, right? I mean, logically, common sense.
Right.
Yeah.
It does matter. And let me tell you, we had them stop, and we got a late hit on the quarterback that kept their drive alive, and they went down and scored, and that was it.
Okay.
We had them stop. We had to stop. We had the 49ers stop. They would have been forced to punt with maybe 4 minutes ago, or 5 minutes ago, whatever it was. And then we could have, we would have had a chance to go down and go ahead. So that's how our season ended.
Wow. Okay. So now sort of like, I guess, is it sort of like the SMU at college? You sort of know these teams that are coming on. You just feel it. I mean, they don't seem to win it that first year, even in any sport. But they're coming on. Was that feeling going on with the Giants? Like, hey, we're playoffs, we're there now. Now this is like a new era. Now we're in it. Did that kind of feeling exist?
Well, it was kind of strange, right? Because Lawrence and I were rookies.
Mm-hmm.
So the Giants had basically a veteran team when I came in the league. So, but you have a veteran team that's got two rookie outside linebackers starting for most of the season. Brad Van Pelt got hurt the third game of the season against the Redskins. So early in the game. So he got hurt early in the game. And I started the rest of that game, that third game of the season, and then I started another 13 games. So I started 13 regular season games and 2 playoff games my rookie season. Okay.
How, Eight-time Pro, was a Pro Bowl with Van Pelt. We were talking. Was he really that good? Was he like as good as LT, or like how good was Brad Van Pelt? Was he up there? Was he as good as you, or better than you, better than LT? I don't know. What's the feeling like when you're playing with guys like that?
Brad Van Pelt was, similar to, kind of very traditional outside linebackers. He didn't have great speed. Like a Jack Ham type guy, very consistent, made all the plays, good hands, got his hands on interceptions, got fumbled, he was just a guy that just knew how to play. He knew how to play football. Okay.
Got it. Right.
Yeah. He just, you see him walking around this, that, and the other, you look at like, but then, man, are you serious? This guy is 6'5" and 245 pounds. Mm-hmm. And you see him walking around, nice guy, whatever. But when you get on the football field, he was always in position, never off his feet, good balance, and just, he just had that football instinct.
Okay, right. How good was LT? Was he the best ever? I mean, you always hear that LT's the best ever. He changed the game. Do you agree with that, or like you played with him? I'm like how good was LT?
Well, I mean, here's what happens is, because we're both rookies,
right?
And I didn't get a chance to see, I didn't get a chance to see him. except for when we watch film.
Okay.
So
because you're playing on the field with them, so you really don't get that feel of what you do when you're watching the game on a film. Is that what you mean? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So like he's probably just as bad as I am. We're both just out there as rookies, just trying to make sure that we know our assignments and play hard.
Right.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Know what to do and then play hard.
Okay, go ahead.
I said, so I didn't really get a chance to observe what he was doing.
I got you. Is football different like that, Byron, than say baseball? Because baseball, if you're a fielder, you see if you're left field, you see the whole play. If you're shortstop, you know if a guy hits you out, you see the whole play. But football, I guess you're just doing your position. Like, it seems like it's almost like warfare. Like, do you really know what's going on all around? I guess it can't be like baseball where you could literally just sit back and watch it. You're probably in this thing. Like, what's that like when you're going through the plays? Am I accurate sort of in describing like the difference?
You don't know what's happening until you get to the sidelines or until you watch the film.
Okay. Because you're just covering your thing, or you sack after you throw. Like, you don't know anything that's going on back there. I mean, and then you go back to the huddle and do the next thing, right?
Yeah, I mean that's that's the beauty of football is that a lot of stuff can be going on and you don't even see it.
Right.
You're out there on the field, so you don't have any idea. I mean, ask a nose guard. What's going on? Like if you're playing nose guard, you're playing offensive line, or you're playing defensive. If you know what's going on, everywhere around, you just don't. You don't know what they're doing on the other side. You don't know what A lot of times you don't know what happened to you right in front of you.
Right. Wow. Okay. That's interesting stuff. I'm going to segue, Byron, on this. Then I want to come back to that Super Bowl year, but I want to talk about this because it is a subject that's out there, and it's the CTE. What's your feeling on that? What the NFL is doing now? What can be done? What's your opinion on all this? I mean, I know they changed the rules. Are you glad they changed these rules? I know the old time football fans. I liked it better in the '70s when they were tough. What do you think about that whole thing? First, like CTE and how the NFL is going about it right now.
Well,
I don't mean to get too heavy on you here, but this is this is out there.
How this came about really is that the NFL were basically dragged in the court, kicking and screaming. And matter of fact, the guy that was instrumental in getting this whole concussion lawsuit started was a guy named Kevin Turner.
Okay.
Kevin Turner played running back for the New England Patriots and was the first guy that I know of to die from CTE. He died at 46, but he was a starting running back for the Patriots in 1995. I know, but he was in his third year. I don't know if he started as a rookie or a second year. Okay. But I know he was a starter as a third-year player. And matter of fact, he was on that Patriot. When Parcells went to the Patriots in '94, Kevin Turner was the running back, one of the running backs on that team.
Okay.
And so, unfortunately, he passed away early at 46. And since then, there's been a lot of guys that have passed away. There's been an NFL settlement with us, the former players.
Right. And
matter of fact, I just recently got an email from the attorney stating that this coming June, July, I think, is the deadline. So from the time the lawsuit was granted to us by the Judge Brody, the former players had 2 years to go in and be examined, both physically and mentally, with the concussion testing.
Okay. So is that every player then has this opportunity to be tested for this?
Every former player has a chance to go through the process. Yes, it's a process. You got to sign up. There's things that you have to do. In order to get, it's not that just because you're a former player, It doesn't mean you just, you can go anytime. You got a 2-year window to get all the testing. And, not every, I guarantee you, not every player took advantage of it. But, former players took advantage of it. Some of them should have, and they didn't. I hope they won't live to regret it, but.
Because that way they're protected if something happens. Is that right, Byron? Then if you do get this, you did the test, and now you qualify for this settlement or whatever they call it. Is that the theory behind it?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And you don't want I think the max is 4.5 million, and you don't want that, because if you're getting that means you can't take care of yourself.
You want zero, basically, right? You don't want anything.
I would rather have zero, but I understand that there are guys that are in bad shape that some of them need 24-hour around the clock care. So,
right,
$4.5 million. I don't know if that will take care of that, because some of these guys, some of them are in their 40s. Some are much older. But I think some of the younger players would be late 30s, early 40s.
Well, that could probably run out in 10 years, I would think.
Hey, I could probably go. Hey, you and I could probably go through $4.5 million. In 10 years. That's not a whole lot of money.
It goes quick. Yeah. But now you're right.
So,
right.
Especially when I say you and I'm saying that jokingly. But what I'm saying is that if you have to have around the clock care, $4.5 million. Let's say that's 450,000 a year or whatever that might be, or what. You get it, and then, is that enough for you to have year-round care? Is that enough if you got a family and wife? Is that really enough? When you can't feed yourself, you can't, shower by yourself, you can't go to the bathroom just think about all that. Some of the guys can't even talk.
I'm saying 15 million is probably the right number.
Yeah. Well, hey.
Too bad I wasn't commissioner. But
yeah, right. You would be commissioner if you said that.
Yeah, maybe I'll put a little thing out there. Put me in. But I know humor is important in life. That was part 1 in my fascinating interview with Byron Hunt. Stay tuned for part 2 coming up Wednesday night. Byron heats up as he talks about his whole football career and gives us some insights that are just fascinating. Wednesday night, biggest and greatest podcast ever.